He negotiated the deal to save the car industry. And I can hear him now, see him on TV, just as like he was sitting in front of me saying, Bin Laden's dead, General Motors is alive. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, everywhere except Delaware, and you negotiated that deal.
I educated myself, and I had people around me to help me. But my people over here in Southbridge, they're a great group of people. They deserve, they're using the facilities that we have here to a high level, and the mayor has decided, Curry don't support us. As a matter of fact, Curry talk about us. Hell with him. Excuse me for all you religious people who have never heard me use that word, but it is in the Bible.
Don't put it on me. I didn't cause the preacher to curse.
Good evening, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
J Street.
And welcome to The Source. Well, today we come to you in the same fashion that we come every week, and there's so much going on in the news, but we want to really hone in on an area that is very near and dear to the show for today, and that is some of the issues and activities within the police department. Now, last week we reported to you all that there was some police brutality that occurred in Southbridge area, and since then there have been news conferences, there have been comments made, and since then I've just been really concerned. So I shared with the two brothers who are with me today that we're going to have a serious conversation within our community and begin to talk about the truth. Here it is, in my opinion, the black community is divided. The black community is split. Somebody has to make sure we start recognizing what other people are now seeing and capitalizing off of. Let me just start by asking either one of you brothers to help me. I saw y'all news article in the paper, and I saw that you're calling for the chief of police to step down. I had an opportunity to interview a good friend of mine who is certainly one whom I respect, B.B. Coker, and one of the things that she said was, what's going on with Black Lives Matter? And her assertion was that if Black Lives Matter, then it should be that it matters for all situations, not just for when a police does something to a black life. So I kind of agree with her on that, but I think that you all have been fighting for all dysfunctions within the black community, whether it be education, because you are certainly a champion of that, whether it be black on black crime, or whether it be, police brutality. Help me to understand, after listening to Kobe's interview, I think you address more than the police brutality, but help me to understand first, before we get into some of the other things that I'm more concerned about, why is it that we say Black Lives Matter, and only time that we see certain people is when there's a police issue?
You want to go?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so first off, and this is a conversation that has been talked about by scholars and everything. Black on black crime does not exist, right? The whole notion is racist in the core of it, and it has gotten people to sell into it. What happens is a crime of proximity,
okay,
right? So if you live in a neighborhood with a bunch of black people, most likely it will be other black people committing crime. Very similar, it's the same for white people. It's the same for Latino, Asian, whatever. All across America. White people commit the same amount of white on white crime as black people commit black on black crime at the same rate. But when white people commit that crime, it's just called crime. But when it involves African Americans, it then becomes a race thing as well too, which then also perpetuates that black people are inherently more dangerous and more violent than white people. Even though we commit at the same rate of our own people, we commit the same rate of crime. But here's the thing. If you look at the FBI's crime statistics, 27% of crime last year was committed by black people. Where or violent crime, let me get it right, okay. Violent crime. The overwhelming amount was white people. But yet, it's still this black-on-black crime. It's a crime of proximity, which I think needs to be addressed. Don't get me wrong. But when you say black-on-black crime, that has been used by people who want to, and I've been in the Black Lives Matter movement since it began back in 2014, 2015. It has always been thrown out to stop that black-on-black, or to stop the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, black-on-black crime, in just talking about crime in our community is something we can address. And again, that comes from the ills that we deal with every single day. It comes from the lack of money, the lack of stable housing, the lack of education and well-funded education in our community schools.
All right, let's stay there for a second. Very good. And I want to make this more interactive. Okay, you just laid it out. What you just shared laid it out. When we talk about Black Lives Matter,
yes,
what you're saying is the totality, the wholeness of Black Lives Matter.
Right.
You talked about education, economics, you talked about crime, okay? Why is it, and I think you answered it, but I want to just make sure our viewers hear this. Why is it you feel that it's always looking at violence and nothing else?
Because that's the easiest way to portray a people who is already broken, right? So to keep them broken, you portray them as they can't do better. They can't get that education. They can't, they don't want proper housing. They want to live in communities that are ravaged by crime. It plays into a narrative that, you know, the only issue that they care about is criminal justice reform. That's not true, right? So that is what the narrative has been for a long time. That's how they try to keep us divided. And we have to come over that, right? So when I say Black Lives Matter, I'm saying I don't want cops to kill me. I want better housing. I want decent paying jobs. I want an environment where I can breathe and drink clean water. I want all that because my life matters.
Absolutely.
And because of decades and decades of policies, implicit and explicit biases, we have created a system where Black lives are not seen on the same level of our white and other counterparts.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. Jay, you have been a part of the fight for almost all of your life, as you've shared. And a lot of people have, when I say people, I mean especially those of a different race, have viewed you as being a troublemaker. Why? Because you go in, you declare what you believe is right, and you fight for it. And 9 times out of 10, you win because you are able to unfold the racism or the injustice that is happening. What is going on in our community now where we're not really getting any satisfaction?
Well, the problem is, and we talked about it off camera, and we need to talk about it on camera, you've got too many people in leadership positions who, in my opinion, don't have the guts to stand up, speak out, and work on things that are beneficial to the entire community and us as a people. And I fully understand that I've had, over my career, latitude that other people, say in a nonprofit, did not have. Because I work for a Lutheran organization, Lutherans nationally and internationally are committed to social justice. So they not only wanted me involved, they expected me to be involved, and even if they didn't agree, we're happy that I was in the forefront. And I understand everybody doesn't have that latitude. By the same token, why would you step up and assume a leadership position if you're really not going to lead? And you got too many people being controlled by the system, and it's just wrong. Now, the other day, when we had the press conference in regard to the situation in Southbridge where the young man was assaulted, we called for the police chief's resignation, not solely because of that incident, but in addition to the other 2 incidents that I in particular cited, we specifically talked about the increase in shootings, the increase in murders, and what I didn't say at the press conference, but is part and parcel to it, the failure to even be able to perfect arrests. So, you know, when we had 3 black mayors running, all hell broke loose as the shootings occurred. But this administration has broken the all-time record for shootings and murders for 3 to 4 years that they've been in existence. And if you look at what was printed in the media following the press conference, there wasn't a scintilla of a reference about what was said about our complaint with the number of shootings and number of murders and also the number of unsolved crimes. When you have shootings and homicides on a regular basis, they're ongoing. What happened last month becomes cold cases.
Right.
So you got all these shootings, all these murders, and people feeling very comfortable doing what they want to do because there's a view that they can get away with it. There's also a view that nobody cares. And as long as it's primarily black young men shooting black young men and black people getting murdered, the greater community doesn't care. But it was a major concern to the press when Jim Sills was the mayor. It was a major concern to the press when Jim Baker was the mayor. It was a major concern to the press when Dennis Williams was the mayor. And now this mayor, there's not a scintilla of a reference about what we said about the number of shootings and the number of murders during this administration. It's fundamentally unfair, and it's a systemic problem by design. And those who are in leadership position and stand silent, in my opinion, are complicit.
Well, let me just say this to you, just to answer some of those. In my opinion, because this is my opinion, I agree with you 100%. One of the reasons why I think that the mayor is not getting the bad press is because he was very brilliant. He made sure he put a Jim Rango over his press area to handle the press, who has relationship with them, and he's also a white mayor. So that just feeds right into the line. He also has a black woman who is his chief of staff, who look, we're not racist, we're not about that. This is why today we really need to spend as much of this broadcast, if not the next 20 of them, talking about the systemic problem that we have, especially here in Wilmington. Because when I hear you speaking, you have a proven track record. When you went against the Board of Education, you won. When you fight for something, you go after it, and that's what I'm used to. What I'm seeing these days, it bothers me. No way in the world, I'm gonna be a little, this is more on me now. No way in the world can a pastor, a black pastor, invest almost $10 million in one community and be treated with the level of disrespect and disdainment that this current mayor is doing because he has a black woman around him and John Rago around him telling him don't do nothing with him because he's not on our team. When I didn't ask for nothing, I just need an approval. This is what happens, and all too often, especially with the ministers or nonprofit organizations, they need these people. So they shut up. They don't talk. They sit in the background. I'm just different. I believe, I'm not from here, number one. Where I'm from, you fight for the little man. My daughter, my wife, and I, we would live comfortable if I've never even came to East Zion Fair. I educated myself, and I had people around me to help me. But my people over here in Southbridge, they're a great group of people. They deserve, they're using the facilities that we have here to a high level, and the mayor has decided, Curry don't support us. As a matter of fact, Curry talk about us. Hell with him. Excuse me for all you religious people who have never heard me use that word, but it is in the Bible.
Don't put it on me. I didn't cause the preacher to curse.
That's what they'll do. But as serious as I am, when I saw the article, okay, of you all having your press conference, I've heard people say, there they go again. It will pass, let them bark. When will we stop being dogs without teeth? When will our teeth really matter?
Well, they can sit there, you know, when I make a step as bold as a member of the NAACP, an officer of state competent branches, and also as a public official and a community leader, and step to the level of saying the police chief needs to go, I'm not playing. And they can ignore it if they want. And I'm sure the view is that the mayor and 7 members of that city council that's divided, shamefully so, will protect him. But the city and its leadership cannot be protected from civil rights litigation, federal investigation, and class action litigation. And if anybody thinks that we're going to go away, or that I'm going to go away, and this just ended with a press conference, they're sadly mistaken. The press conference was a warning shot, because we cannot sit idly by and allow what has transpired to continue. The misconduct by individual officers is outrageous, and it's more prevalent in the city of Wilmington than anywhere else. Second, and of equal importance, the number of shootings, the number of murders, and the fact that you've got unsolved shootings and murders. And when I raised Cain and said what I said on this show, and I said it on county council floor, you got a mass shooting over here in South Bridge, 3 females shot, and nobody arrested, but the illicit activities that's allowed to go on in that park in front of your firehouse continues every day.
With cameras.
With a firehouse with cameras on it.
Yeah.
That continues every day. And then you wonder why we would step forward and question how the Department of Police is being run. But the fact of the matter is, the next day after the shooting, there's 3 cops standing out there in the park. Park's empty. The day after that, there was nobody there. And it's the same joke, such as 7th and Washington. You had all these problems going on in 7th and Washington, so you got 2 cars, 3 cops, 4 cops standing out there in the corner. And everybody just moved down to 7th and West around the corner, and they were still doing exactly what they wanted to do, and they're doing exactly what they want to do right now on West Street, while the cops are standing on Washington Street. And talk about community policing. Community policing, you send 3 cars, you send 3 cops, and they stand up on the corner and look at each other.
Yeah. Let me show you something, and I'm sorry, Kobe, we're gonna come back to you too. I'm just trying to navigate this. But Trump playbook has been adopted by this city. Let J Street sue. That takes time. That takes time. Yeah, he's gonna sue. And yes, and by the time he gets his litigation started, he'll be able to claim victory after I'm out of office, after we're gone. Where my fight is right now is, when are we going to disrupt? And Kobe, I kind of need to turn your way, because because for reasons.
Y'all got to catch up with me being involved in demonstrations. Yeah, but go ahead.
But you're right. But you got a proven track record of it. Okay, we got a generation now that has such fear. The playbook is, call your press conference, call your lawyers, do all that. We got city lawyers. We'll use all the tax dollars to have our lawyers fight your lawyers, but we still going to do what we're going to do. When will the call be for disruption? And I ain't talking about no riot like happened during the last one, where the governor said don't do this, and people were going into wig shops and stealing wigs. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about where business can't happen because there's a shutdown.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what we did on June the 5th, right?
Okay.
That was a nonviolent demonstration. It was a rally. It was a protest. But in that, we shut down the entire city of Wilmington. We shut down Amtrak. We shut down the surrounding county areas. They had to pick the bridges up. They did the hard work for us. No one could get in and out the city because we shut it down for Black Lives Matter.
How did you do that?
We did it by strategically bringing in people who care about our community. We united. There was people there from all sides of the city, from all across the state, who cared about Black lives. We did it to create a space of healing, a space of coming together to say this is the change we want, right? And then you look at who we are as a city, right? All these corporations here, the banks here, everyone was closed by noon on a Friday. Amtrak was not taking any trains from the city of Wilmington. Buses, DART, shut down. Bridges up, like I said. The city was shut down for Black lives.
And I think what has to happen.
And you had 3 police forces standing by en masse. I mean, they made good money, because all that's overtime.
Wilmington police, state police,
County police.
They had National Guard on standby. You had officers who are in different police force talking about they're ready to come in and help their brothers in blue and stop these Black people from breaking everything up. You had a councilman and a council president spreading lies about the organizers, saying that we're going to go over Charlie Square and tear everything up. They sent emails to businesses. The Enterprise, we were moving so much stuff we had to rent a car. The Enterprise told us, oh, we got to take our lockbox in. We're going to be closed the whole weekend because the city sent out an email saying it's going to be a riot, that this is going to get out of control, that they had it, sitting across from the mayor and his staff, they had it on good authority that out-of-state agitators were coming in. And their police force said that they had investigatory skills, that they knew this was going to happen, and that it was going to get out of control. And let me tell you something. Not a shooting happened that day. Nothing happened. You had gang members. You had church people. You had everyday people all out there together, because we united around one issue and coming together as a community. And that's what I'm talking about. You have individuals, like you said, the Trump playbook, who are going to spew lies to try to divide the community. I've said this multiple times. I said this from the very first show. When we sat down in the governor's office, in the mayor's office, they offered us checks. They offered us cars. They offered us all different types. The business people offered cars, not the mayor. They offered us all types of stuff to not have that protest. And then you see, as we're building momentum, they try to find someone else who's a blackface for them.
Oh, that's the playbook. Go ahead.
To come in and say, let's paint a street. Let's raise a flag. Let's actually not change anything with police. Let's not change anything about the lack of housing, stable, affordable housing in the city of Wilmington. Let's not change anything about our education system. Let's not change anything about how Black people are disproportionately arrested in the city of Wilmington for the same crimes that are being committed in a county and getting different charges. Let's not do anything about that. Let's raise a flag. Let's paint a street. And not even a street, let's paint some stairs. And it's our own Black people who sold us out on that.
But we've got to step to the plate. And what you did was outstanding. And the way you were trained by Reverend Barber and others, it speaks for itself, because you were determined that it wasn't going to be violence, and there was not violence, and you had it planned all the way down to the end. And I commended you once, and I'll commend you again for having the wherewithal at the 11th hour when things got tense to encourage the police chief to walk with you, and he did, to his credit. But there are other things that can be done.
Right.
For example, when somebody was shot and killed and they knew who the murderer was, and associates of the family were sick and tired of this person being on the street, and I was told no on certain terms, that there's folks who were in special forces that are concerned about the family, and you got X amount of time to get him off the street, or we're going to call these people in and they'll get him off the street one way or another. Well, I knew they weren't playing. So I come on cable TV show and I say, if y'all want him off the street, just do me a favor. If you're concerned about the family and you want this person off the street, call. This is the mayor's office. When you're not doing nothing at work, call. Have your kids call. Have your aunts and uncles call. Have your friends call. Make it so they can't transact any business. By 12 noon, mayor called a press conference. Put up $5,000 reward money to get him off the street. As soon as that happened, I called the county exec, and he put up $5,000. The next day, he was off the street. All in response to, they couldn't transact any business because people had tied up the phones. So they're little things and they're big things. We don't always have to hit the bricks, but there's going to be a change.
Yeah, but let me just go back to the focus. I heard you passionately, and you as well, speaking about how well you all did this march. I was here. I didn't participate because I've learned something. Being here at East Zion Fair, people will put you out on the limb, and then they'll cut it off and laugh at you as you fall. When we did racism in state government, I watched people around me who was saying, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. But when they got hot, they were bought off. And that bothers me because I can't be bought and I cannot be bossed. And what often happens now is focus. Where is the focus? Continuity. You brought the people in, they saw the power that can be had, but they went back to business as usual. When are we going to get so determined? I'm not going to use negative mad black man language. When are we going to get so resolute and resolved within ourselves we will not let go of this chokehold until it changes? Now, Street, you got a long track record of doing that, but for where we are right now and what this city is doing to our people, because, you know, you go over to the riverfront, ain't got that kind of stuff. You go to certain communities, we don't have that problem. That's why we can just give you certain people and tell those people to keep y'all quiet while we continue our agenda. When will we be so focused and so resolved that we will be able to really get some real responses from the city?
So it's a tier thing, right? So one, and this is just what I believe with organizing. One, you have to have the community on your side. Two, you have to have the media on your side. And then three, you have to have those in power on your side. But that looks a little different, right? So when you say those in power, it's not just the governor or the mayor or the county exec. It's the lawmakers, it's the executive branch, and hopefully it's the judicial branch as well, too, if you want to go that route. So let's use, for example, policing reform. You had members of the General Assembly who were able to capitalize off of the time in the movement. You look at Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker. She's heard what the community said about body-worn cameras. She heard what the community said about knowing more about us, right? And she was able to capitalize by passing HB 195 and 198, which is the body-worn cameras for the entire state in Black history in our education system, right? But then you also look at other people who are using a moment and saying, well, that moment isn't going to be there forever, so let me just wait because I'm scared I may burn my own self. But here's the thing, when the people are on your side, when you have that people power behind you and you're doing the policy work that they want to see, that they're speaking out, that thousands are speaking out to see, they're going to continue to support you. You're going to lose that support when you choose to be scared. And that's what we're seeing, right? So we have to have those who are empowered to change policy because, look, an executive order is only there for as long as the person in executive office is there. But when you change the law, that's there for a long time.
Right.
That's what I try to do. I try to change policy. I'm always a policy-oriented person. And I try to do that through people power and people mobilization.
Yeah, but the issue, and I know y'all, I'm not trying to preach to you all. And matter of fact, some people who are watching us, you're in the fight, you're in the battle. But the problem right now, we are in a crisis. You talked about community, media, and those who hold the power. The community want better.
Correct.
But they've been sold out so much by leadership. By leadership within our community. I asked the question, who is the leader in the black community today? And you could easily, Jay could speak of all those powerful people he often allude to who raised him, Redding and all those folks, and you knew clearly, and they would not take the bribes. Who is the leader in the black community and for the city of Wilmington? I'm gonna shut up right there, and I want y'all to tell me, who is it? Who is it? IMAC? The NAACP? Who is it? And then who is the person that your children can come back and say, I was mentored, I watched Redding, you speak of Redding, you speak of, I can name many other people, but who is the black leader in the black community? And as soon as you tried to upscale, move up and get elected, the folks labeled you. And some of the black folks walked away from you. Because if you were to become, no, we can't control him. Who is it? And I'm going to shut up.
And you're going to get continued silence because as we speak, there's no person or organization that you can point to, that we can point to and say that's the leader, okay? And it should be to the point where, like everything else, and as I said, even as a child, watching the elders do their due diligence in the civil rights struggle, there was engagement, but when Mr. Redding spoke, it was over. The argument was over, the decision was made. And that's where we were, and not only did that impact as related to the law, but it impacted as related to demonstrations, protests, where, when, and how. Because all that was planned collectively by all the leaders who played the different roles.
Right, different role. But they were unbought and unbossed.
Correct.
People will sit in their plush offices, 9th floor, 12th floor, whatever floors they are, and they'll sit back and say, look, this is what's happening. Call this person from the black community in. Call that person in, and that person begin to speak, and they give them talking points, which will water down what you all are trying to get done. And that's where our problem is. For every person who listens to me, and I listen and watch me, I pastor a church here, and I'm fine, but human rights matter. If I don't want to use the word Black Lives Matter, I'm just going to say human rights matter, but I've got a special interest in black lives because I happen to be black and I'm proud of it. Where I'm continuously trying to get this conversation at is, I started off with they playing you as a joke. That's how I started off, because you done had your press conference. Okay, that's over. Make sure that when the press call, you say this. They're done. Now, Street, you do bring a different threat because he's going to, if he say he's going to sue, he will sue. We'll be gone. Watch that little Kobe guy, because that Kobe guy, he's going to always be there to figure out how he can organize a protest. And if it gets too serious, then we'll talk. But if it's just over there at the press conference, it doesn't matter.
But, and he also brings to the arena an excellent rapport with some of the elected officials, especially those in the General Assembly, and he knows how to craft and present policy.
He does.
And see, that's more threatening, or just as threatening as anything else.
But where the people are dying on the ground is right here in the city. But, and you got a city council, and I'm not speaking ill of them because I don't know them that well anymore because I don't deal with the city people that often, but you got a city council, and I'm told, based on hearing conversation, he got his 7.
Correct.
And since he has his 7, he got his chief of staff, who is African American like y'all.
My cousin.
I don't care if it was your, oh, I almost said your, it doesn't matter to me. He got that. What else did he need to do? He's going to get past what he wants. That's why I know. Well, if better was for Wilmington, it would happen.
Well,
because he got all the tools it takes in order to make better for Wilmington.
And all we have to do is take one of those votes. And somebody at some point is going to have the courage, maybe, to step up and Kobe and I, as we were coming in, we talked about nobody was doing nothing. Well, the fact of the matter is, President Trippy Congo was major as it relates to the instant case because he spoke up, spoke out, put it in writing.
Yeah.
And we started down the trail of exposure, and we've gone from there. But this is not going to go away. And if they think it's going to go away, then that's a strategic error on their part.
I won't do this.
But I'm going to go, now you open the door, so I'm going to come through. Historically and traditionally, as relates to the civil rights struggle, which we won A, B, and C, now all, most if not all of those things are lost. But what made that possible? What made it possible was those leaders in the community who were independent. Who were independent? Our pastors, our lawyers, our doctors, and our undertakers. Those are the independent people that the system can't control. And as we go forward, and the struggle, in my opinion, is starting all over again, because that's where we are. It's those same independent entities that are going to have to step forward. Now, as we speak, who's the black lawyer in this town that I can go to and say, I need for you to bring this? Okay? But there's a lot of them working in corporations, working for businesses, nowhere to be found, nowhere to be seen or heard, no interest in civil rights litigation that made it possible. That same civil rights litigation made it possible for them to be where they are, but they all hide and go seek. And so we have to go to others. But praise God, there are others out there who are ready and willing to take on this litigation, and we're gonna have to do what we have to do. But it's going to take more than litigation historically and traditionally. It's taken demonstration, legislation, and litigation. And we're gonna have to utilize all three of those.
Yeah, and that's why I keep saying that they have figured out, like Trump did, they had subpoenas and everything else. We'll fight it out in court. We're gonna keep doing what we're doing. Something gotta stop them now. We'll be right back. And we're back. Today we're discussing some of the issues, or should I just say, the plight of our black community. Oftentimes you see protests, you see things happening, it is very much escalated, and then all of a sudden it dies off. And what we're trying to dissect today is to see the purpose for why. Why is it that we ask for change and we don't get it? Why is it that our black community get into powerful positions and do not stick with the reality that they have to fight for what is ours? Kobe talked a little bit about he believed in the legislation change because that will stand for a while as opposed to the executive changes. But today, we really need you to understand, it doesn't take 1,000 million people to bring about change. It just takes some committed people. I raised the question, who in the black community? Who in the black community is our leader? They have people they call. They got certain preachers they call. They have certain community leaders. They got certain folks that they call in order to keep everything calm. They ran into a brick wall when they tried to call Kobe and say, look, call off your people because we don't want this to happen in our city. And they decided to continue on, and they had a peaceful, but that's even over now. We need something with teeth. And I'm going to be pressing this for the next several weeks until I start seeing it. I'm going to hope and pray and trust that we have somebody watching and say, you know what, we do need to come together. We can't keep electing black people or white people who hire certain black people to keep us calm and in our houses and in our cages. No, we must at some point say to ourselves, we're better than this. We do need to have the right education system here. This city doesn't have a high school. How that they will call them theirs as the city controlled. We don't invest in this community to the level that we need to. And when you find persons like myself who says, look, where's the leadership? Where is it at? You can easily say, well, where are you at? I've been trying to show. Jay, I wouldn't associate with a person like Jay who if he did not deliver. He didn't even believe in charter schools, but because we were given a charter school, he felt you shouldn't be able to take it just because you want to have a racial tone. I respect him. You got Kobe who works hard, trained by the best, and he's trying to bring about change. They label him so that he can't go any further. This is the system that we're in, and they want to shut the mouths. I said to Zion Fair, aren't you glad we don't have grants? Because if I had all these grants, this is why you talked about earlier in the last segment, you talked about you got to have you got to have a black lawyer, you got to have a black preacher, you got to have a black, whatever, all of them you said. You barely can find a strong black preacher who will stand up and fight, put their bodies and their lives on the line. Because when you get this money, you get controlled. I'm tired of the chicken sandwiches. I'm tired of them. It's time for us to learn how to fish, how to catch our own chickens, so that we will be able to do for ourselves. And one of the things that I was trying to make sure we uncover today, because we're not finished. Hear me, for those of you who are listening, you wonder where we are with this? This is the beginning of a new beginning, because we're going to start raising the consciousness, and we're going to start daring our community to step up. It's time to close some stuff down. It is time to shut some stuff down. I don't want to see my community drug infested. If it means we got to lock up folks, we got to lock them up. But I asked for better jobs. I asked for better training, and I called on the mayor several times. Show us the plan, and I'll be the first one to work with you. I don't care who I voted for. You're the mayor. If you say this is my 4-point plan on how I can get rid of the drugs in your community and build your community, I'm with you.
Well, that's my whole problem, okay? The first thing, not the first thing, but elected November 2004, by April 2005, I presented to County Council a comprehensive plan, a 10-point plan to reduce the violence in and around the city. That formed the Hope Commission. The Hope Commission plan, in my opinion, we talked about, is an excellent plan. In March of this year, I turned around and I made a motion to have the county administration, Department of Public Safety and Community Services develop and bring back a comprehensive plan to reduce the violence and, to the extent practical, involve the city. Well, county administration is working on that. They've got to start. They've preliminary plans and activities in Rosegate and Edgemore Gardens. But I don't know where the city is involved in this, and that's my whole problem. You've got unprecedented shootings, murders, and no plan to stop it. It's business as usual. You've been doing the same thing for the entire 4.5 years of this administration. That's what has me so angry and frustrated. Plus the fact that the mayor and the governor were both key figures in the development of the Hope Commission plan that was never funded. It never had more than $500,000. Now, maybe Senator Brown can do something with it, and I was talking to him yesterday, and maybe for the first time in history, maybe he can get it funded.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If he can, he will, because I do believe he's in the fight. Let me say this to you,
but
Jay.
let me say this to you, and you know, you sit here and you give me accolades for this, that, and the other. But the fact of the matter is, you built a new church, and I look across the parking lot, you built a community center. And I come in here and I see kids being raised with a spiritual foundation. They're in the sanctuary. Across in that community center, I don't know what, none of my business, what your budget is, but you created jobs. You've got a sizable number of kids, which required a sizable number of teachers, which required a sizable number of aides, which requires people to maintain the facility, so you created jobs. And you did it where the only other thing left in South Bridge is neighborhood house. And you had the promises from Golf Tainer, we're going to do a training center at Palmer School. None of those things have come to fruition. And it's sad that you've done those things on your own with seemingly no respect and appreciation from people who should be appreciative as relates to what you've accomplished solely by yourself over here. And, you know, having built an agency from 2 rooms to 5 additions, and going from a $70,000 a year budget to a $2 million a year budget when I left, took me 35 years. And so I know what you went through, but you've done it in a fourth of that, a fourth of that time.
I appreciate that, but that's a responsibility, though, Jay. I often laugh about the fact that we are part of the same fraternity, and I was taught in every aspect of my life, it's not about you, it's about what you're given, because God has brought me out of I'm from the projects, okay? 23rd and Diamond in North Philadelphia, that's where I was reared the first 18 years of my life. I always had an issue with no one around us cared but the Catholic Church. And I say that, and sometimes I get in trouble because I'm a Baptist pastor. But it was only the Catholic Church that did anything for us. So I was always taught, you got to always give back. We don't charge for stuff here at this center or here at the church. So thank you for the compliment, but this is my anger. My anger is they are beating me up. I didn't ask. I went to Land Bank and I said, listen, there's a property here we would like to purchase. He said, no, we'll give it to you because of what you've done in Southbridge, connected to my property, so I can build housing for seniors. The mayor will not meet with me. Our city council person who represents this district tried to set up a meeting. They don't want to be bothered with me because I'm a black, angry man, they so think. And I did not vote for them. First of all, I couldn't vote for anybody because I don't live in the city. Right. But let me say to you.
But the importance, I don't think people understand. I know I wouldn't be sitting here and would not have done what I've done for my entire career if I hadn't been raised in a house where it was a given. You were going to have a spiritual foundation because you had to do everything with the church. Right. And when I look out there and see those children being raised with a spiritual foundation, all those children that y'all are taking care of every day, they're not going to be the ones over there in the park doing illicit things. They're not going to be the ones shooting somewhere. When you're raised with the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill being primary and foremost, you're not going to be out on the corner shooting somebody over some foolishness.
Absolutely. And thou shalt not cuss too. So we're going to put that one there for you. Kobe.
Yeah, so
I can ask for forgiveness.
You had a lot of people who was on that Hope Commission, who are still in power, who still have the power today, who are still the business leaders in the community. They put together that plan, and you saw nothing happen with it. It didn't get funding. I think Jay has said it to me 100 times. It's about the funding aspect of it. Who's going to pay for it? You look at where we're at as a community. You've done good work over here. Jay's done good work. But why isn't that being replicated across the city? Because
I'm going to answer your question. Because the powers to be don't care. That's why. No way, if I was a Jewish rabbi and accomplished what I've accomplished with no support from most people, the city gave me the hardest time out of all, it would be broadcast everywhere. But when it comes to black people, we put us against each other, and they don't care. Why isn't it funded? I'm going to answer your question because he asked it first, and I'm going to ask it back. Because they don't care. It will never be funded as long as we have this type of mentality, and as long as we blacks who are part of the community are divided. As long as we're carrying their coffee. As long as we're carrying their pocketbooks.
And every level of government every level has unprecedented amounts of money at this time.
Yes.
We're at a point now where they have gained more revenue as a result of the pandemic and as a result of the election of Joe Biden. Governments have more money than they ever had before. And if you care about your town, even if you don't like us, okay, you cannot have a functioning city with the level of crime that we have. And quite frankly, I don't care. It's none of my business. I can't say I don't care.
Right.
But what has transpired, what's transpiring in Chicago and in Baltimore and Philadelphia, ain't got nothing to do with B. What are we going to do here?
Hey, Delaware and E. Zion Fair Baptist Church, it's that time, yes, for the E. Zion Fair Baptist Church to honor and give tribute to our own elder, J. Codwell. He is a trendsetter, torchbearer, and trailblazer of Delaware for quartet gospel music. Saints, listen, it's been a long time coming, but we knew a change would come. We thank God for allowing him to have longevity, and we want to honor him on October 31st. Mark your calendar. Yes, October 31st. We will have 3 different special tributes that will occur on that day. At the 11:30 worship experience, the E. Zion Fair Baptist Church will give its tribute, where our choirs and our praise teams will be singing the songs and giving tribute to J. Codwell. Then at 2 o'clock, we'll all go over to Newcastle Avenue and Piles Lane, and we will change that street from Piles Lane to J. Codwell Lane. And at 4 p.m., yes, the quartets will do their tribute, and it's going to be on. We have so many people already confirming. We have what I consider to be some of the top elite groups in the quartet field. Keith Wonderboy is coming. We have the Nightingales, they are coming, and we also have the Brooklyn All-Stars. If I were you, I would get my tickets early. This is the only ticket at the fair. Tickets are $10. If you want VIP seating, it's $20. But Saints, at the end of the day, we will be celebrating America's legend, J. Codwell.
Change is coming. A change is coming. We got to start taking the oxygen out of this political power source that is suffocating the black community. We have to do that. They have discovered the antics and the things that the older civil rights leaders of our community have done, and they have washed down some of the current black leadership. For them to say to me that the mayor has 7 votes, recognizing how many African Americans on that council, that troubles me. Dennis had to fight like a dog just to get things passed. So that still, all of them did. But this is where we are now, and we're going to not stop. I'm sorry. Kobe, I lined up with you because I saw something you were doing. Well, Jay had kind of introduced me to you, but I saw something you were doing. And I lined up with you. I said, you know what? He got the huspa. He got the want to. He need a form. And that's why I wanted to bring you on to be a part of this talk, so that you can at least share. People can see the intellect that you do possess. You're young, and that's what happened with me. If you look at this table, you got Jay, who is that generation about 50 in front of me. He's the older generation who have fought the good fight, who have led by example. Have he been perfect? No, but that's just the way of human is. I'm the next generation behind him. You're the generation, and you are shaking, you're moving, you're doing, you're educated. The problem is we have to stop beating up our own. We're going to go to a break so we can do some of Kobe Corner stuff, because I always like to have his time. But before I go to this break, we're going to be back next week, and we're going to talk more. Jay said,
y'all are going to be back next week.
Jay said he got to stay in the senior home. But let me just say this to you, the reason why I said that. Because whoever is interested in running for mayor, I'm going to ask you, let's sit down. I don't care if we didn't agree. I want to find a way to beat the system's game. We shouldn't have 3 people running for mayor. Our egos have to now get out of the way. Who is the best person to reflect and really, really help our community?
I heard it was going to be you.
I ain't running for nothing but Jesus. So you ain't hear that one right.
Praise God.
I am interested, though, in putting all of my resources behind any people who want change. You can't be bought. You can't be bossed. We need change. We have discussed today so many different issues. And can I tell you, when people don't care, oh, that's going to go away. They'll stop protesting. Where I come from, you sit, they can't even leave their building. And let the cops arrest you. You have your lawyers there to let you out. Come back the next day. And when the folks get tired of you, change will come. You have to agitate. My aunt used to say it this way: the reason why that middle thing is in the washing machine, because it got to agitate the dirt out. You have been called to move stronger. We should not be in the position that we're in. We are much educated as a people. We have way more resources. Our social media, we have way more resources. Kobe shouldn't be in this fight by himself. I'm just afraid to jump in another battle and get left out there to be hung.
But by the same token, there's no progress until you really get people involved. And the best example I can give you, we got the first black superintendent for the Wilmington School District at the time because Hicks Anderson went to Bancroft School and emptied the school, and they all went to the administration building and took the administration building over.
But that's
at that point.
And that's what I'm talking about.
We had a new superintendent.
But this is what I'm talking about, Jay. I'm not going to put my cards on the table too much, and I'm not threatening, but I'm a man of action, okay? And Kobe we're men of action. But what's happening is they've figured out that they got too many people who are just talking. It's time to start letting them feel the sting. And I'm there. I am there.
But and I'm just saying, okay, and we saw the last Wilmington teacher strike because we went back into the administration building and we took it over. And Joe Johnson, God rest him, said, no, don't lock them up. They can have the building. I am not going to arrest my own people. We stayed in there a week, but before the week was out, we had a teacher contract. But those are the things, and it's got to be people who have the capability to bring the community into the struggle. And we didn't tear up the administration
right. That's
building.
Right. That's the
key. We just went in there and took it over.
That's right. And that's the key. We're not interested in people loitering and things of that nature. We're interested in showing that we do want more and that black lives, they do matter. Jay, this is it. You won't be back for a couple of weeks. We may pull you in again. But anything you want to say as the last 1 minute?
No, I just think that what I saw this morning on picking back on what Kobe's saying, what I saw in that on TV this morning as relates to the statements and the activities of the police officers, to me, just as egregious as what happened to George Floyd. Yeah. And we have a continued systemic problem with police policies and practices throughout the country.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yeah. One thing I did forget, the Secretary of Education here in Delaware is stepping down in December. And I hope that Carney appoints someone who's an educator and someone who's from our community. But other than that, please be safe, enjoy the weekend, and have a great week.
I'm going to ask that you please remember that we're going to be together on next Sunday at 5 o'clock. This Sunday, you get in as this live, but we're going to continue this conversation. Even though Jay may still be here or may not, we're going to continue this because, listen, you matter. You matter. You matter. This black community matter. And some of us are not in it for the money. Some of us are in it because we are invested. So I hope and trust that you will start thinking, we need some people to help us in this movement we're about to launch, and we're going to need bodies. We're going to need people who are committed and cannot be bought. Until the next time we get together, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Jay Street.
We'll see you.
Take care, y'all.